Hey everyone, it's Mark here. In this video, I'll talk about the train wreck that has become the Timepiece Gentleman, and I'll go over basically what's happened here with this organization seemingly disappearing. Seemingly disappearing with a large number of watches on consignment sale and potentially some investors or backers' money. Now, exactly what has happened here is not totally clear, but at the moment there are significant fears that something problematic has gone wrong. And I'll go through what we know so far. Now, I won't necessarily be adding any special insight into the information that is already out there, but I do invest in startups, so I can give some insight into the dangers involved in investing in some of these startups, and some insight about what might have happened and what might have gone wrong with this organization. So let's have a look at what exactly has happened here, and to do this, I'll look at some basic reporting that has occurred about the Timepiece Gentleman. So here we are on a website called Watch Collecting Lifestyle. Probably shouldn't say that mockingly. Anyway, basically what it says in the headline here is breaking news. Dallas gray market dealer, the Timepiece Gentleman, seems to have vanished with millions of dollars of consignment inventory and funding money. So, first thing to note here is when it says grey market dealer, as many of you will be aware, that is not necessarily a pejorative. It just kind of refers to the idea that they're not selling as an authorized dealer, which would catch up a large number of people who are selling watches. So I would not necessarily regard that as in any way negative. So let's continue down here about what is being said. Now it says here, just because this developing story is happening right now in Dallas, where watch collecting lifestyle is based, we're covering this story that is outrageous, to say the least. After doing our research, we found information that claims the Timepiece Gentleman slash Gentleman Timepieces, which is Dallas based, in the end of which I'll start that again, which launched in Dallas, Texas, at the end of November 2017, with a $500 USD profit coming from the sale of a Breitling watch by Anthony Farrer, an ex-convict and felon. That seems a little bit gratuitous because, let's face it, people can reform themselves, and the justice system is, at least in part, about rehabilitation. So I don't know whether it's necessarily fair to bring that up. But in any case, it says, in 2018, a relatively young Dallas-based vintage Rolex dealer named Marco Nicolini decided to join the venture. Today, despite these two guys are novices when it comes to real watch knowledge, the Timepiece Gentleman claims to be a $10 million enterprise. After becoming a social media sensation, with 40,000 followers on Instagram and 110,000 followers on YouTube, this Dallas-based grey watch dealer seems to have vanished into thin air, with millions of dollars in consignment inventory, as well as the hard-earned money of hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals who pitched in $2,000 each in exchange for being able to buy watches at wholesale prices in the Timepiece Gentleman store that was supposed to open after raising $2 million via Instagram. Only 1,000 lucky followers would be able to become partners in the enterprise the Timepiece Gentleman was building at their investors' dime. So, effectively, what we are seeing here is effectively a few things. Firstly, A, Timepiece Gentleman has taken money from investors, and this was to set up a store, amongst other things. And now this appears to have folded. Now, I'll get to some of the rumors floating around, but it appears to have folded. Now, I want to be clear here. Companies go bankrupt all the time. There's not necessarily anything nefarious with a company going bankrupt. A company go bankrupt because maybe their expenses were too high. Maybe because they had a store with employees and overheads. There simply was not enough money coming in from watch sales to justify that, which is quite possible because it is expensive to run a business. Now, granted, looking at their YouTube channel, it appears that their lifestyle maybe was either a little bit from advertising kind of not quite real, i.e. the luxury cars and like maybe were just kind of there as props, or alternatively, maybe they were spending beyond their means. But in any case, businesses fold all the time. That does not necessarily mean that anything nefarious went on. In terms of the consignment watches, again, the website here and the reporting appears to be saying they have disappeared with the consignment watches. Again, we need to be careful here because it might just be the store has shut, but if those watches go back to the original owners, then again, not nefarious, it just means they couldn't seal a deal. They couldn't get the watches sold. It only becomes nefarious if they walk away with those consignment watches, or if they've effectively taken them away from the person who still held title. Because in a consignment sale, the original holder still has title. The retailer doesn't have title. They're just acting as a middle person between the person who owns it and the person who is going to purchase it. So in any case, that's kind of what we're seeing here. It appears that they have folded. Now, if we dig a little bit deeper into this, we can see that some of their social media has shut down. So looking at their YouTube channel, the YouTube channel does actually still seem to exist. So we can kind of have a look at their YouTube channel right now. So here, for example, is their YouTube channel. This is their most recent video, but of course there are a myriad other videos that they have. We can click onto this. You still see Timepiece Gentleman still exists, although it is taking a little bit of time to load. So that still exists. However, their Instagram has reportedly disappeared. Furthermore, according to this website that was reporting on the Timepiece Gentleman, it appears the store has largely shut down and has largely ceased to exist as well. They've reported the store is, if we go down here, scroll, is kind of in a slightly parlous situation, with the labeling disappearing and wearing off. They've reported it as these people seem to have been trying to scratch away the labeling to try to pretend it never existed. Don't know that that's really the case. However, some labeling seems to have worn off. So that appears to be what we have in relation to the reporting about the Timepiece Gentleman so far. Now, there are a few theories about what exactly happened here. A, they might have run off with the watches and the money and disappeared into the ether. That, of course, is easier said than done, because as others have remarked, a lot of these watches, like, for example, the Rolex I'm wearing at the moment, it'll have a serial number on it, so it can be tracked. So disappearing with these things is easier said than done. So I don't imagine that being the situation. There's an argument it could have just been for the drama, i.e. they're shutting down in order to come back in a week's time and say, oh, we didn't really shut down, we were just joking. Or, look, we're back, imagine we're new and better with our new store, now in 5 locations. Maybe that's what the situation was, although I rather doubt it. Because this is not positive information. This is negative news, and everyone's kind of mocking them, and it's monumentally backfired. Thirdly, and to my mind, this is probably more likely what happened. Probably the business folded. Probably they didn't really have their inventory managed down properly. Possibly there were some greater issues in terms of making money. Maybe running a store with inventory and staff wasn't quite as profitable as they would need it to be for this company to remain afloat. Because let's face it, the amount of money you make selling a watch might seem quite decent when you have a small amount of watches and you're just kind of selling some things on the side and you're not really running as a business. It's just your personal collection you're occasionally selling. In that case, it might look like you can make money selling watches, but that doesn't mean it's enough to keep a store afloat, to pay your bills, to pay your staff. Like if you were doing that, it would be quite difficult. You'd have to have a lot of inventory, and it could just be the business wasn't as good as anticipated. That said, we can look at the comments on their latest video, and there are some pretty classic comments which I think kind of give us a bit of an insight into how the general public has responded to this. So looking at some of these comments, it says, looks like Anthony, i.e. one of the co-founders, never came back from lunch, just like my dad, who went to buy cigarettes when I was 5. This next one is rather extended. It would be nice if it were in paragraphs, but anyway, it says here, if this is all a plan to rebrand for the drama, then Jesus Christ, this is a bad way to do it. Just disappearing with no word or anything, no communication, 2 weeks after promising to up the quality and quantity of 2 videos in a week. Sure, you can make the argument that all the drama and hype around the where did they go could be a media stunt. However, I have zero respect for a move like this. If you're going to start scripting endings and creating fake drama, I might as well be watching some shitty teenage show. If this is real, and if this is real, and there have been arguments to the degree we saw in this episode at the end, I'm sorry to say that I have little faith in them opening up 5 stores, spread out over the country, when they seemingly can barely run one, based off the inventory systems and disagreements in how to run the business. Like many others have said, I think Mike seems like a nice guy, albeit a classic. I'll say what you want to hear and make you happy type. He either needs to have some sleepless nights where he gets to grip with the new management system for the inventory, or he needs to go. Also, it would be nice if the show isn't dead, and Anthony didn't go to the Bahamas with his now bigger personal collection. So effectively, he's basically saying that if this is drama, it's terrible, and it's also terrible if they've disappeared. Next one says, as my dear late father used to say, never trust a man who shaves his arms. Then here, latest news. Archery Luxury sells his fridge as capital and purchases the Timepiece Gentleman's business. You heard it here first. And while I don't particularly follow Archery Luxury, I can easily see this being poking fun of the lack of value in the Timepiece Gentleman's business. And it says here, I heard from a close friend that Mike ran off with all the watches and is currently doing lines. So we can basically see the general public is kind of taking them apart. So whichever the explanation is, either A, they ran off, B, they folded, C, there's drama, or maybe it's D, some other thing that is not nefarious and they need to come out and clarify it, is not being well received. Now, as someone who's invested in startups, I'm well aware that startups can easily fold. And that doesn't mean that the founders did anything wrong necessarily. It appears that in the Timepiece Gentleman's case, they maybe needed to get to more grips with what it would have taken to set up and run a company. And maybe they should have been a little bit more circumspect before taking other people's money. Because when you take other people's money, you have at least a moral responsibility to not screw up and to actually know what you're doing. But it really remains to be seen exactly what the situation is. And if they are watching this, and I really know that they are not because I'm a tiny channel, but if they were, I would encourage them to come out and clarify what has happened, to put all of the rumors and speculation to rest, so that people know what exactly has happened, and that people stop necessarily assuming the worst. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, because we haven't heard their side of the story. And it could easily be that none of what I've said explains what happened. It could be there's some perfectly innocent explanation. However, it's really useful if they come out and say what that is, rather than letting people run off with all of these weird and wild theories about what might have happened, and to stop people assuming the worst. In any case, that's a bit of coverage about this drama. Like I said, I have no special insight into what has happened here, but if you found the video interesting, then it would be great if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any thoughts about what happened, let me know that in the comments below, because it'd be interesting to hear what you think about what had happened here as well. And in any case, thanks a lot for tuning in, and I hope to see you for future videos as well. Bye!